Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by The Last. Delighted to be joined for the first time on IFL TV by a man from Filthy Fellas, Chelsea TV, Sky Sports, and everything under the bloody sun. And now, boxer, UK media relations man, Savage Dan. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. After tonight, I'm very well because we've just seen an obscene boxer tournament. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Your new role with Boxer now, people will know you from the sort of things that I said and seeing your face in the media and whatnot. In terms of you taking on this role, massive platform, no-brainer.
It is a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? I feel like I've been in boxing for ages, but like almost as a presenter, it was my way of staying in boxing without boxing anymore. Couldn't do it anymore, man. I was a good amateur. I just lost I'm going to blame it on an injury, and I'm going to follow it up with I just kind of lost all the hunger, but I still, first...
Just like I could have been playing for Chelsea if I didn't do my ACL, which never actually happened.
Exactly. We both could have been playing for Chelsea. But first and foremost, I'm a fan of boxing, so regardless of what it is, like I'm always looking out for boxing things. If my lappy's over there, my homepage is Boxing News 24. Like I can't help it. Like I'm always looking for new boxing stuff. So yeah, obviously I've been with Boxer for 18 months or maybe a bit longer than that. They trust me, and I've found a way to almost be involved in a couple of these deals and be a bit of an influence more than just a presenter of when I'm doing the podcast with Paulie. And it seemed a bit of a no-brainer, and it happened, and now I'm happy. Like onto bigger things.
Yeah, boxing's hot at the moment, and it's been hot for a couple of years. Like, don't want to go too deep into it, but Anthony Joshua sort of kick-started like a massive boom in this country. It's bigger than ever. So from that perspective, obviously you're a boxing fan anyway, but from that perspective, like, is there no better time to be involved in a sport than right now?
So it's a mad time for boxing in general. I mean, I feel like boxing went through a little bit of a lull, maybe 15 years ago or something like that, where it wasn't so shiny, and obviously AJ's brought back everyone, to be fair, and now boxing's shiny again. That there's loads of new players always coming into the sport and trying to, make things different and make things fresh and make things new. And Boxer, in a way, is no different. Even though it's a young company, it's got big ambitions, teamed up with Sky. And it's an exciting time. Like, there's so many options now for fighters that I think if you're a fighter as well, it's like perfect circumstances because you've just got so many different options.
Yeah, boxing is booming at the moment. And like you said, there's options to go on. Loads of different platforms, promoters, managers, and loads of people taking in limelight, which is obviously only a good thing. Actually, talking about that, let's talk about tonight quickly, because if Boxer are going to throw these tournaments at us, you might as well start with a banger, and that is exactly what happened. I'm still buzzing off the night. The arena's only over the road. How fucking good was that, by the way?
Bro, it was crazy. Like, I've seen a couple of these tournaments. We've seen tournament boxing before, but I've never, ever seen one that good, that had unbeaten fighters in it, that had rivalries, that had wars in it, that had a perfect amount of needle. And I promise you, we did not rig the draw. Like, I promise, that draw was not rigged. That happened just like that. And
you told me about the warm balls and the cold balls, no? Or was that off camera?
That was off camera, yeah, that was off wax, yeah. No, and it wasn't balls, actually. It was cards, innit? It was cards with people's names. Yeah, you couldn't even rig it. But the draw just worked perfectly. Like, it was a good balance between respect and needle. There was a bit of shoving and pushing, but you're fighting each other, and when it's all said and done, you're making weight, you're angry every now and then. And yeah, I think some of those fights were incredible. I think that Levi and Appleyard fight, what a fight. I actually genuinely had Levi winning it 2-1, but I wasn't surprised when it went the other way. It was just, honestly, like, they were both hurt. Yeah, it was crazy. Nothing was clear. Every time I spoke to someone in the crowd, they were just like, "No, I fancy that person is winning this fight," and I was just like, "No, I think it's that one." I did have Corey as the favorite, but even that final could have gone the other way. It was crazy.
Well, we're talking about how boxing's booming, and then if you're going to start these tournaments off, like we said, tonight was like a perfect example of perhaps bringing in a different audience as well, and with yourself, someone who, like I said, is a face on loads of different media platforms. That's perhaps Boxer's way of getting other people involved and sort of, your use towards a company like Boxer. And you're going to talk about boxing, and I said this to you before, a lot of people will go, who the fuck is Savage Dan to tell me about boxing? But you have stepped in the ropes okay, you aren't a professional boxer, but you've stepped in the ropes. You've got some experience of just knowing what it's like to box, and you box as an amateur yourself.
Yeah, like I was a decent boxer, very decent, like good. Don't get to. If I went and got back on weight and put the gloves on,
Jesus, coming with a new energy. Fucking hell.
listen, I can go and get a British title. I just can't make light heavy anymore. It's just, I'm sorry. But yeah, like it's just a perfect introduction to boxing. As I said before, I just love it. Like I don't enjoy the hard work that it entails, but it's just qualities. It's just a perfect sport. It's just the balance of art and violence and all of the different parts that come together. But it's like I'm very happy. Obviously, there's always improvements that can be made and always growing. And this is only our third show. We had the October 2nd card, and then we had the 16th with Savannah Marshall and Chris Eubank and Hughie Fury and everyone else. This is our first boxer tournament where we're it's grassroots boxing essentially. You know, we're getting local people that aren't household names. Big opportunities. People are flying up the rankings. Like, put it this way: before tonight started, Corey Gibbs was 13-0, 3 knockouts, and a brilliant amateur, but no one really knew about him. And now he's 16-0. It's only 27 minutes later. He's 16-0. He's 40 grand richer. and he's probably shot up the rankings. And people that win these tournaments end up flying onto British titles pretty fast. So it's a good format. It's exciting for people to watch. I feel like there's no waiting around. I'm a purist, so I can watch 12 rounds of actual dancing, but for somebody else, they might just want sanctioned violence, and that's what a night like this is going to bring. It's going to bring mayhem. It's going to bring chaos and excitement. So I think it's a perfect balance today.
Yeah. Well, the future's obviously bright going forward with Boxer, and I did mention the fact that your opinion, because you stepped in the ring, can count for a little bit more. I have got to ask you what you was like as an amateur, because you said it's a mix between art and violence.
Yeah.
Are we talking back foot? Are we talking slick?
Right.
Are we talking Savage Lomachenko, Dan? Or are we talking a brawler?
You see, put it this way, Mayweather was my type of fighter. I really loved him.
Please, I like you, Dan. Please.
But I was called One Bang Dan. This right hand was big damage on this right hand. So like I like to sink my shots in. I was a big light heavyweight as well, but I did like to box. I prefer to try and outthink someone, even though I can bang. So I'm a boxer puncher. That's what I am. As an amateur, I'm a boxer puncher, and yeah, dangerous. I'm a dangerous fighter.
Do you know what? It's not long before Boxer grows, you grow, and there will be someone calling you out. You know where this is going. It's not long. I'm not gonna lie.
I know someone upstairs above me somewhere is already planning, let's get Dan back down. Let's get Dan back in the ring. If I can light the fire, I promise I'll go back. I'll get in it. It's hard. Like the thing with boxing, as you know, 99% won't do. Only 100%. And I don't know if I can do UK media relations. Come here, talk to you all the time. Go and do that, and get up in the morning, go for runs. Do the school runs as well, do all of that stuff. I have no real ambitions to go get back in the ring, but I love watching everyone else fight, to be fair.
What they say about it's hard to go for a run when you've got silk pyjamas, it's hard to get up and go for a run when they give you a swanky room like this, yeah? Is this how Boxer are treating
What do you mean? You're just looking at a wall behind me. There's nothing.
Yeah, they can't see, but I can. You should see what I'm staying in, mate. Little travel lodge. But I want to talk about that sort of side of boxing, because obviously we've seen recently people who aren't professional boxers go into that field. We're only about a month away from Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, which a year ago would have just seemed obscene to even think about that being a pay-per-view fight. What is sort of your take on that world that started professionally with KSI and Logan Paul? I know there was amateur stuff or white-collar stuff before it. What's your take on that world and how that sort of develops into the sport?
It's changed, if I'm totally honest. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was kind of taken away from the integrity of the sport. I feel like people were just getting involved, having fights, calling themselves boxers, and kind of taking all the limelight. I felt like people who have worked so hard throughout their whole careers, like everyone who fought tonight, basically, who doesn't get to just walk into pay-per-view fights and doesn't get to walk into big fights on Sky Sports and big money and big contracts and all of that kind of stuff. I felt like it was a bit, they get hard done by. But to be totally honest, I think my stance has slightly changed because of Jake Paul. I feel like he's taken it seriously. he's had a few fights and he's called out Tommy Fury, and I think it's a good fight. I would be surprised if Jake Paul won, but I wouldn't be that surprised. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'd be that surprised. It will be both of their toughest fights, and it takes some balls, isn't it? Like anyone, if you get in the ring, it takes balls, regardless. Like that's just how it goes. So it's good. It brings like new eyes to the sport. I just hope that the new eyes that come to the sport stay with the sport after those big fights. So yeah, I didn't like it at first, but I've come around to it. I get it now. I feel like that's the same with a lot of people, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, people will have their judgment clouded on Jake Paul simply because, look, we can see he's taking it seriously, but I think personality-wise, it doesn't wash with a lot of people in the UK because that sort of brashy American YouTuber feel. But just quickly, we talk about bringing new eyes to the sport. How hard is it to bridge a gap from someone who's going to watch Jake Paul fight to someone wanting to watch a card from 6 o'clock on Sky Sports? Bridging that gap, is it almost nigh on impossible?
Yeah, I think there's fans who just want to watch because of a particular fighter, and I feel like a lot of Jake Paul's fans will be just Jake Paul fans, and they will watch him regardless of if he was in a fight or if he was playing golf or he was playing darts. They would watch what he does because they watch what he does. But I do think that there's a small percentage of them that will stay and stick around for fights. So, for example, if Tommy Fury was to beat Jake Paul, I would assume he would pick up a number of those fans and those people that are watching, and they may follow Tommy Fury now for the remainder of his career. So I think there's always a crossover. I'm not sure where the percentages are in terms of who manages to retain that many fans and that many views and that many all of that. But I do think eyes on the sport are eyes on the sport when it's all said and done. It's a good thing. It's just about being able to do it and not lose the integrity of boxing.
Yeah. I want to quickly talk about some, I'll call it real boxing for now, and sort of what you grew up on. Obviously, saying you boxed yourself, there must have been someone who influenced you or something you watched as a kid, or like, I don't know, give me a moment it snapped in your head and you thought, right, genuinely, I think I've fallen in love with boxing.
Do you know what? I can actually remember it because it was the first time I went to sleep thinking, I'm getting up tomorrow and I'm running. And it was the Mayweather-Hatton fight. It really was. When was that?
Mate, say, yeah.
So that's the two of us. Literally, I remember watching it and I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was the build up. Obviously, there were polar opposites, and I think they did a very good job of promoting that fight in terms of the 24/7s. Everything was shiny. I would wait every week for the next episode of 24/7 to come out. There was like disrespect. There was animosity. It had so much to the build up, and two unbeaten fighters, two world champions. I couldn't not see that fight. And I remember going to sleep that night, 5 a.m. or whenever it was after Mayweather won, and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to be the next one, like the next Mayweather. And that was the beginning of my journey. I ended up going to Dale Youth after that, and just really sinking my teeth into boxing. I ended up at Holliton ABC and then went back to Dale Youth as well. But that was the beginning. That was the spark. I was always interested in boxing, would watch big fights, but I remember that was the moment where after that I started watching absolutely every fight. I'm talking Southern Area fights. I was trying to just pick up traits from absolutely everyone.
Yeah, that's so weird because that's the exact same for me. And like even things, I have vivid memories of when Floyd wore the Man United shirt when he come over here, and like that noise for away, and like that's that is quite strange. But in terms of moving from then to now, obviously we've got our own superstars, and there'll be people, the situation you was in, looking at our modern day guys. We could sit here and talk about them all night, but we might as well just have a little chat and breeze over the big lads. What a carnage month, by the way, when we had Joshua and Usyk at Tottenham, and then rolled into one of the greatest trilogies of all time. The big boys are just doing bits, aren't they?
Honestly, like heavyweight boxing is crazy right now. It's even hard to pick your top five because everyone's will be slightly different. But what a month! The AJ Usyk fight was crazy. The atmosphere was like something.
Was you there?
Yeah, I was there. I was sitting like two chairs down from Vitaly Klitschko. Like it was, I was right there, and it felt like a huge event. You know, like sometimes you can just feel it inside the stadium. Huge fight, and I'm super intrigued about that rematch as well. And then you've got Tyson Fury, like that was like a 90s fight. That fight was a throwback that trilogy with Wilder. So yeah, the big boys, they're killing it right now. And then you got the Dillian Whytes. You got everyone else floating around as well. Andy Ruiz is still dangerous. No one's talking about him right now because boxing is very, what have you done for me lately? But all of these guys are like there, and I think they can all beat each other. Maybe not Fury, but I think the rest can all beat each other.
So for you, Fury is the number one as we sit here right now.
Yeah, I think he fair enough. He may have beaten Wilder 3 times, but it's still 3 huge wins. You see what I'm saying? So he's definitely got Wilder's number, and the way he did it, I think, puts him at number 1. I think he's probably the only one without a loss as well. Yeah, he has to be. Without a doubt, he has to be number 1.
You talk about Joshua and Usyk, and obviously I know Coogan done that interview with Joshua, which seemed to just, I don't know, bring out perhaps a side we hadn't seen in Joshua for ages. In terms of the intrigue for the rematch, did you sort of see, obviously you had watched the interview, did you see like a mentality switch? Do you feel like Joshua was going to go in there with Usyk and not try and box the boxer as we saw? Did you see like a side to Joshua that it's almost angry, wanting to get back into that rematch?
Yeah, he looks frustrated, isn't it? As in, he looks like someone who's not going to fight that same fight again. I watched that interview actually, and I never really watched the long ones because that was long. That was I was in Dubai. I watched that on a beach, and literally, he looks like he's basically saying, "You know what? Fuck you. Forget boxing. I'm coming to really be a heavyweight and impose myself on you." I think it's a clever tactic. You've got to do it kind of let's call it educationally. You can't just run onto Usyk, but as in that's a better tactic in terms of being able to just impose yourself and throw shots like that. I think that's how you beat Usyk. Even when you look at how Chisora dealt with him, it wasn't comfortable for Usyk knowing that you've just got some big bully walking onto you and throwing bombs. He wants to hurt you with absolutely every shot. But yeah, I mean, look, AJ's got boxing ability. Of course, everyone knows that. But do you want to play someone at their own game when you could probably play them at yours? Yeah, I wouldn't be so accommodating next time. Usyk, if I was fighting Usyk and I was the size and strength of Anthony Joshua, I would be trying to just bomb him out of there.
Come on, Josh, man. Stick it on the boy. In terms of Dillian Whyte, obviously pulled out of his fight against Otto Wallin with an injury. Whether he fights him or not next, or fights Tyson Fury, people want to see Dillian get a shot. Dillian and Tyson, I can't picture how that plays out. Like, I can't. Generally, you can't picture 2 people in a ring together.
Yeah.
Like, I still can't picture Joshua and Fury in the ring together, and I can't picture Fury and Whyte. What do you think of that? Because, like I said, I just can't picture how that works.
I think it looks similar to Chisora Fury 1. So I think Whyte would try and jab him and impose himself and push him back, and I think Fury might give him the front foot and try and box with the back foot. I don't know what it would look like going down the stretch, but I do expect, if that fight does happen, Whyte to try and be on the front foot. There's no point really boxing Fury going that way. You've got to try and send him the other way. So yeah, I honestly think he will give him some issues, but at the moment, I'm not sure if I can see any chinks in Fury's armor. He just doesn't look like he's ready to lose right now. He looks like he's getting stronger. Him and Sugar Hill is like, it was scary how much Sugar Hill behaved like Emmanuel Stewart in that fight. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, do you know what? Maybe you can forget about beating Fury for now. You're going to have to wait for him to kind of get lazy and complacent.
Yeah, no, I get 100% what you're saying. And like you said, the Sugar Hill, Emmanuel Stewart comparisons are so clear for everyone to see. I'm not going to keep you for too long, because I know you'll probably want to go and have a few drinks and whatnot. This isn't going to go out before Canelo Plant tonight, so there's no point us doing a breakdown of how you think it's going to go. But what I just want you to do is what everyone else has been doing for the last couple of years and wax lyrical about how good Canelo Alvarez is, because the guy just he's like 1-12 in a 4-belt undisputed fight. Like, he's just a different breed of fighter. He
is incredible. And the thing is, there's something about me that doesn't love Canelo. Maybe it's because I love Gennady Golovkin. I've always loved him, and I felt like he was kind of hard done by in the decisions in at least the first fight. But Canelo is ridiculous, man. I can't see anybody beating him right now. He just looks like he's learnt too much. He's downloaded too much data. He's too dangerous. He's too big. He's too strong. All the Carl Froch stuff. Like, he is incredible. I can't see, obviously, the Caleb Plant fight's happened already. I'm going to be smart here and say that Canelo got him out of there between 6 and 9. and hope that I'm right. But I just think it's going to be I think he's going to dominate him.
Well, we could look silly tomorrow morning just presuming sitting here talking about Canelo, but like you said, I just get a feeling that there is a man that's unbeatable, and if he is going to be beaten, does he perhaps have to be taken so far out of his comfort zone, fighting even at cruiserweight? It sounds ridiculous, but is he one of them fighters who has to be taken so far out of his comfort zone to even be considered an underdog?
Yeah, I think. I mean, even if you look at light heavy and you look at Bitabiev, I think he could do that. I really do, and it's scary because the guy was at 154 just the other day, and now he's going up and fighting at 185 or 175 or whatever it is over there, and it looks like he could go again. Like who's the cruisers right now? Well, imagine that Canelo versus Coley. Canelo versus Coley. You wouldn't write off Canelo.
The thing is, you actually wouldn't as well. Like genuinely,
it's crazy. He can sometimes you lose sight of how good someone is because they beat everyone in their own weight and then all the weights around it, and he actually might end up having to go back up there and be a throwback fighter because Roy Jones did it. We might see, we could see Canelo versus Joshua at some point. You never know. I wouldn't rule him out.
Don't write it off in this just ridiculous sport. Dan, pleasure. Thank you for joining me for our first interview on IFL TV. I'm sure there'll be many more to come. Up the boxer, up the Savage Dan, up the whole movement. Hey. It's going to grow, it's going to build, and you're going to be a full-time face on IFL very soon.
Love, bro. Come on, thank you.
Can I get you to say it quickly as well?
What?
Get you to say it.
Of course, come on. What was the actual quote? I think it was, if you lot do it first, I'll do it. It's good advice.
One.